Welcome back to my channel, guys. Dave here, and today I'm going to focus on sharing with you some of the ridiculous mistakes I made financially that limited my growth in that capacity. I had conversation with a couple of friends of mine as well, and they also shared some of the mistakes that they also have made whilst trying to improve on their financial capacity. Right? Everybody at some point will make these mistakes, but these mistakes are why it's difficult for you to grow fast in your finance. And I'll share those mistakes with you if you stay with me. I'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. Dave here. Once again, do subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell notification, as well as clicking on the like button if you find value in what I'm sharing. All right, and you can also go back and watch previous videos where I share a lot on investing tips in faith and on personal, branding and all whatnot. Now, in this video, I, however, want to focus just on some of the ridiculous mistakes I made while starting up. I think for me, the number one mistake I made, which I wouldn't directly say was my fault, was not earning enough. Of course, if you're not earning enough, there's only so much you can do. At the time where I was still in school at the time, it was so difficult to even pay my fees because I didn't know how to command higher sums or how to even command any sum. So the only gig I was running at the time was my radio gig. I was working in a radio station, and we were paid less than $50 for a whole month's work, right? So I had to figure out a way to create more streams to ensure that I live a bit better than what I was earning. So the first mistake I made was not earning enough. And the sad reality is, if you're not earning enough, there are so many people around you who are earning much more. Depending on some of them, their parents, I don't think my parents ever give me any pocket money at the time, right? Or maybe like 5K or 10K. And that, to be honest, it won't cover anything. So I realized that I had to create a system that had to see me earn much more. And I came across one word: value. And once I began to increase the value I was letting out to other people, as a result of that growth process, my income began to also increase with that value. So the thing is, if you're not earning enough right now, your job is to find a general problem and create value in that direction and master the art of negotiating and marketing, and then you'll begin to earn significantly better. Of course, we go to school for 4 years, graduate and get a degree so you can get a job. That channel you went through for 4 years was so that you can command some level of authority in the field you studied, and then you are able to dispense solutions based off of the knowledge you've learned. So first thing for me was, even though I was going through school, I really didn't get the concept of what value was. So ideally, value is one thing. You must package your value and find the audience that needs that value, and then you begin to command higher sums. And after I began to do that, I saw my income began to increase arithmetically, gradually began to increase step by step, and then I had to now figure out what to do next. But now, while I was making all of that, the second mistake I made was I wasn't saving at all. Right now, that's one thing, to at least have an understanding that you must save, because I didn't even know how much. I didn't learn how to document my processes. So everything that comes in goes out, and then at the end of the month, I know that there's probably something will come in again, and then it goes out with the same way it came in to another need. So I wasn't saving at all. And then even when I began to save, I wasn't saving with purpose, right? Because I hadn't learned of the third mistake I'm talking about right now, of not learning how to invest early, right? So even though I was saving some sums, the monies were just packing dust there. I was trying to save at least 10 to 20% of my income every month, because I had listened to some financial advice. Listen, listening to financial advice does not make you make more money. What it does is give you perspective, and then your discipline is what ensures that you follow through the processes, right? So I was saving, but I didn't know the purpose which I was saving for. So I was saving a lot of money. Then eventually that monies will be spent on something else, which is the number 4 mistake I made. I didn't learn how to delay gratification well enough. So even though I knew that I should not buy what it was, I would save up some money, and then the fact that I haven't dealt with that need to have what XYZ has, I will spend the money I have saved in buying another liability. I didn't even know what liabilities or assets were at the time. So I would buy, another liability that keeps on draining my money, probably the next best phone, or the fancy laptop I didn't even know how to use at the time, or buying the next fancy shoe or clothes, right, at the time, because I didn't quite understand. So even though I began to save, I wasn't saving with purpose to invest. And then when I began to invest as well, another mistake is I didn't know how to manage risk. So everything that had an ROI, I mean, we saw a couple of days ago how with ROIs, people are getting into trouble, right? Anything that had, the higher the ROI for me, boom, and money is in it, right? I remember there was a particular investment, I wouldn't call it an investment. There was a time where people were donating their funds to scams on Telegram. There was one I did in 100% in one day, bruv, I did it. I think I put about $100 in there, and the money never came out. And it didn't stop there. I found other methods to keep on investing or throwing my money at them, $50 here, $100 here, until I realized that, bro, you're not growing. You just throw your money away, because I hadn't dealt with the greed that was in all of us. So I had to learn how to not be eager for high ROIs and begin to learn the process of investing properly, right? Long term, right? I was always short-termed. The shorter the investment, the higher the ROI. I'm in it, man, right? So we did things like MMM at the time until we began to learn proper effective financial management, right? So now I'm much more wiser with how much I'm able to proportion my portfolio and knowing how I want to invest. And even with the investment vehicles I use, I still have to keep my risk minimum, because if you don't deal with the fact that every market is risky, you probably won't even invest. You'll only be an analyst on the sidelines, but you need to actively engage and expose your funds to these markets, but while still limiting some risk. So those are, for me, the top 5 mistakes I made that sort of like inhibited my growth, and I've shared with you as well how you can handle some of those mistakes as well. I was talking to a friend of mine as well, and he said one of the mistakes he made why his business is in debt is because he was giving out too much. Some other people will say that they're living above their means, right? What will help you is you should have an understanding of what a budget is. How much are you willing to spend per month? That is largely driven by the needs that you have. You should be able to put on paper your immediate needs, electricity, internet, or feeding, or transportation. Have a document that gives you an idea. A budget tells you where your money should go, and then a financial journal tells you where your money has gone. A mentor of mine had taught me to write a financial journal. So everything I spent, I was documenting it. If I bought a suit for $10, I'm going to write it down. If I cut my hair, I'm going to document it down. If I buy fuel for my car, I document it down. Now, these processes help me to see where the loops in my finances were, and I began to work them out, right? So it's important. And then, of course, for those who are willing to receive investment from people XYZ, it's important you're very careful with how much you're willing to offer them. If you don't know how to generate those funds, be very careful, because one of the first investments I did was crowdfunding a farm. This is almost a decade ago, right? So I had collected money from XYZ, and I was so passionate about the return on investment that planting yams could offer me, but I didn't particularly do my groundwork well to know that that year rains would not fall too good, and the timing with which you planted was very important. So it was a whole mess. I had to now work 2 times as hard to ensure that I paid people back their funds, even with their ROIs. So I have learned, and I'm suggesting to you as well, be careful. Always weigh the risk before you try to invest in any market. Of course, don't be scared, right? As fear is a sign you don't understand what it is that you're doing. When understanding comes, fear dissolves, and then you know how to manage your risk properly. So that's what I also suggest. Try to live below your means. Even if you're earning, do not improve your standard of living until 6 or 1 year after you've consistently grown that income, right? So if you come into some amount of money, be careful how you expend it. First thing you have to do is just shut the heck up. Not everybody must know how much you've got, right? Number 2 is get intelligent financial analysts or lawyers who will help protect your equity. And then lastly is you don't want to change your standard of living until you've been able to predict how much you can consistently earn some of the vehicles you're going to be investing in. Then you can shift base and make things a little bit better, right? So that's my 2 cents for you as usual. So my joy is that you take some of these information and you run with it. And of course, when you begin to do these things, you significantly improve the quality of your finance, right? So Dave here, please. It would be nice if you subscribe to my YouTube channel and just click on the like button if you like what I shared, and do invite your friends and buddies to join as we have conversations there on money, faith, and of course personal branding as well. Stay winning. See you in my next video. Dave signing out.